Soda.
Any deal is too good to be true. No, really. I know 3 things for a fact. 1, the moon landing was fake. 2, the moon is also fake. And 3, this deal has illumi-naughty written all over it. I mean, think about it. 2 medium pizzas with any toppings, any crust, any recipe, no questions asked. Well, I got some questions. Does that include meat lovers?
Yeah.
Original pan crust?
Yeah.
Are you a hologram?
What?
The $6.99 any deal. Is it proof that no one out-pizzas the hut?
The Lloyd's a wicked wizard who made pizzas old and cold. And now he's off to meet his greatest challenge, the magic of hot, fresh Domino's pizza. Hot and fresh because it's delivered in less than 30 minutes, guaranteed. So hot and so fresh that even the Lloyd's can't break the spell. So call now.
Put together some really impressive deals. But this thing you've pulled off, it's amazing. A big and tasty for just $1? How do you do it? What's your secret? You're a man of few words. I like that.
At McDonald's.
Purple. Very, very powerful.
There are 196 countries in the world today, and virtually none of them have purple on their national flag. Throughout history, purple was never used to represent a kingdom, civilization, or empire. So what's wrong with purple? It's such a popular color today. Why would no country use it in their flag? The answer is really quite simple. Purple was just far too expensive. No countries have purple in their flag because up until the 1800s, purple was worth more than its weight in gold. The color purple has been associated with royalty, power, and wealth for centuries. In fact, Queen Elizabeth I forbade anyone except close members of the royal family to wear it. Purple's elite status stems from the rarity and cost of the dye originally used to produce it. The dye initially used to make purple came from the Phoenician trading city of Tyre, which is now in modern-day Lebanon. Fabric traders obtained the dye from a small sea snail that was only found in the Tyre region of the Mediterranean. A lot of work went into producing the dye, as more than 10,000 snails were needed to create just 1 gram of Tyrian purple. Since only wealthy rulers could afford to buy and wear the color, it became associated with the imperial classes of Rome, Egypt, and Persia. Purple also came to represent spirituality and holiness because the ancient emperors, kings, and queens that wore the color were often thought of as gods or descendants of the gods.
At Taco Bell, the dollar gets you access to more. Is the $1 stacker reserved for a secret society or just anyone with $1? The answer is yes. There's a powerful connection between the dollar and Taco Bell. 20 steps on the pyramid. Who's really behind this? Is it the Illuminati or the Bell-luminati? Experience the power of the dollar at Taco Bell.
Fast food companies and other food processors drive down the cost of food relentlessly and force economies of scale and efficiencies, or what are called efficiencies, on farming. And I'll just give you one example. If you go to McDonald's, anywhere in the world, you will find French fries, or chips as you call them, and you will find that they're always made from the same potato, the russet Burbank potato. This is a potato from America that's unusually long and difficult to grow, but that's what they want, because when you're McDonald's, you like those red boxes with a little bouquet of very long chips. It looks really good, and so they insist that all their potatoes be russet Burbanks, and they further insist that they have no blemishes at all. And there's a very common defect of russet Burbank potatoes called net necrosis. And you've seen potatoes with a little brown line sometimes, or spots that come through it. Well, McDonald's won't buy them if your potatoes have that. And the only way to eliminate that is to eliminate an aphid. And the only way to do that is with a pesticide called Monitor that is so toxic that the farmers who grow these potatoes in Idaho won't venture outside into their fields for 5 days after they spray. And then when they harvest their potatoes, they have to put them in these atmosphere-controlled sheds the size of a football stadium because they're not edible for 6 weeks. They have to off-gas all the chemicals in them. So you see, the desire for a certain kind of chip leads to a certain kind of agriculture.
And people understand that certain foods in the food supply are addictive. So sugar, mainly, and processed foods are designed to be addictive. You know, I've met with top leaders in the food industry, and they explained to me how they have taste institutes where they hire craving experts to create the bliss point of food and heavy users. I mean, these are their internal terminology about creating addictive foods, and they harvest taste buds and put them in the lab, and then they test different things against them to create the most pleasurable experience. And we know biologically that it affects your brain like cocaine or heroin or alcohol, and that we can map that out.
But the other thing on the health side, when I started learning about nutrition, about which, by the way, much less is known than you might think, that the scientific understanding of nutrition is still very primitive. But I learned that what mattered most about one's health was not necessarily the nutrients, good or bad, that you were consuming or staying away from, or even the calorie counts. But what predicted a healthy diet more than anything else is the fact that it was being cooked by a human being and not a corporation. Corporations cook very differently than people do. They use vast amounts of salt, fat, and sugar, much more than you would ever use in your own cooking. And the reason they do that is those are three incredibly attractive and incredibly cheap ingredients. And when they're layered properly, as in a chip or various pastries and forms of junk food, they're incredibly addictive. And in fact, people in the industry, they don't talk about addiction in the food industry, even though they traffic in addiction. They talk about craveability. It's the same thing. And snackability is another term they use. It's a lovely word. Anyway, so I came to see that cooking has a huge bearing on our health. And in fact, there's been a lot of research in America that shows that even poor women who cook have healthier diets than wealthy women who don't. So you see, the usual class bias in the quality of diet is overtaken by this fact, this key fact. Who's cooking your food?
I often teach at churches, and I say it's really easy. Just ask yourself, did God make this or did man make this? Did God make a Twinkie? No. Did God make an avocado? Yes. It's pretty simple. So most of the stuff we eat are food-like substances. They're highly processed, highly refined, which drive diabetes, obesity, heart disease, chronic disease, and we really should be eating food.
Would you say if God made it, keep it? What did you say?
God made it, eat it.
Eat it.
If man made it, leave it.